Hello, friends. Good afternoon. It's Darina Williamson coming on. Hi there, everyone. I hope you are doing well this afternoon. It's Darina Williamson coming on Instagram Live. Yay. And my on board. And Jean, I've just invited you on, so hopefully you'll get to pop on here in a second. But we are going to discuss her brand new book. So let's see if we can get her on. I am coming from Nashville, Tennessee, or Smyrna to be exact, but the Nashville, Tennessee area. So hopefully you all are well wherever you are tuning in, whether you are live or coming on later. So let's see. We are going to get this all set up here and get Jean on. Welcome. Hi there, Kathy. Good to have you on too, sis. All right, so. Okay, so we are going to keep on working here to get our author, Jean Neely, on. Hope you all are doing well today. We are going to get all these kinks worked out and get Jean on here. So let's see. Okay, Jean, I'm going to send you an invite. I just invited you. You should be able to click the invite. There we go. Yay, I've got her on. Hi, Jean.
I'm so sorry.
It always feels like a big yay moment when we finally
I'm totally new to Instagram and I've never done an Instagram live, so I'm sorry for that.
Oh, it's okay. Well, I'm glad that you're on. I'm glad that this gets to be your debut. And for those who might be watching live or listening later, my grandson is here, and I don't think he's crying because he wants me, but he is turning 2 on Saturday. And so the terrible twos and the plan to watch Elmo, it doesn't sound like it's working so well in the background. So, we roll with life. We do life. It is totally okay. So if you all hear the sound of a toddler in the background that doesn't sound happy, just so everyone knows, all is well. It is okay. But welcome to those who are watching us live and those who may watch later on Redbud's page or on Jean's page or on my page. I want to introduce myself. I'm Darina Williamson, and I serve as the diversity chair for Redbud Writers Guild. And one of my joys in this role is being able to champion all of our writers, of course, our family, a sisterhood of writers in our community, but with specificity for our writers of color. And so today it is my honor to celebrate this new release by Jean Neely, and it is Christ in the Abyss. And it is a beautiful, beautiful book. And before we dive in, I want to introduce Jean for those who may not know her. Hopefully you will know her much better after our conversation. Jean is a Korean American writer and educator. She has degrees in comparative literature from the University of California, Irvine, and Sorbonne University in Paris, and a PhD in English literature from the University of Southern California. Neely writes regularly on issues of mental health and faith for Faith and Leadership, Sojourners, Inheritance, Christians for Social Action, and more. And she lives in Southern California with her husband and son. So she is 2 hours earlier than I am. It's still morning for her, but it is just crossing into afternoon Tennessee time. But Jean, welcome to this live conversation. I am thrilled to get to talk with you today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for doing this.
Absolutely. Well, for those who do not know much about this book, I want the author and me loves to show covers. And so the title is really beautiful, personified in the cover, which shows, as you all can see, sort of the color change from light to dark, which really speaks to depth and the abyss as the ocean, you know, texture. Of course, I've never been to the to the depths of the ocean. I'm not a diver, but we all know and understand that water, the color gets darker as it goes deeper. And so I love that, you know, your publisher and just the beauty of art direction, that they really sung the title and the subject matter of your book on the course.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about even how you came up with the title. Was that something you presented, or was that something you worked with your publisher on?
That actually came to me a year or two after I had started working on this project. And my first actually proposals and rendition of the book got rejected in like 2019, all around. I think I like submitted to about 5 Christian publishers, all rejections. And then, but I got really positive feedback on my writing itself. So I started re-envisioning the project as less of a memoir and a little more of a resource for just people who either struggle with mental health and faith, or who even just have any kind of prolonged suffering. And as I was trying to figure out an arc for the book, it just came to me that, you know, I tell my close friends when I'm really down that I feel like I'm on the bottom of the ocean floor, and I'm down here and there's nobody else. I'm all alone. And I just feel like everybody else is, you know, up in the, either in the sunny shallows or just up on land. And I'm in my own sphere, just far from everyone and far from God. And I just thought that seemed to be a thing that could tie my chapters together. So yeah, I came up with it. And that was around 2020, and that's when it really helped to just tie my vision together more, and also helped me to focus the stories around what specifically would help for that.
This is listening to you talk. It just reminds me why I love having these conversations, because hearing you say, and you had mentioned to me in our just chat before the live as we were preparing about, you know, your journey and experiencing, as many authors do, for those who aren't writers and robo writers, we unfortunately understand that having rejections, passes, as many publishers say, not a right fit, whatever the verbiage used, it's pretty common, right? And yet when it's you, it still, you know, feels like I'm trying, like I'm still
Yes.
going down the road trying to find, knocking on doors, and
Yeah.
I'm kind of being told no, keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And so listening to you share, I love this part of your story, because we see the end product, but we also, you know, it's great to have insight on the journey. And as I'm hearing you, the passes, the rejections led you to make some shifts in
Yeah.
approach, which led
Mm-hmm.
you to this title, which to
Yes.
me is another reminder for those
Mm.
who are writers pursuing publication, that God can bring beauty and redemption even out of what may not feel good in the moment, right? Of like, they
Yes.
didn't want it for whatever
Definitely.
reason, you know? So
Yes.
I appreciate you sharing that, because that's encouraging to me. And I hope that
Oh,
that's
good.
encouraging to other writers.
Yeah, and I was devastated in 2019. I thought, okay, this is over. What am I doing? But I had friends who kept saying, no, you need to write this. So that was super encouraging. And I'm actually so relieved that things that I had envisioned writing for the first version of the project didn't get out there. You know, I'm thinking too much reveal, like it's too messy. And I'm so glad that I feel like the rejections pushed me to hone this into a sharper, a better project overall. Yeah.
Wow. I just wrote that down because, for again, I'm always thinking very, very pastorally and very, very much as a leader.
Mm.
Yes, this part of the conversation is focused on your journey to finding that publisher, and even the journey of shifting, but you also have illuminated something that everyone can enter into, and that is, you know, being a friend who encourages,
Mm-hmm.
Whether those friends were people, and you beautifully, like, I love at the end, you're afterward when you thanked folks who were part of the journey with you. And even if I don't know who those people are, I always like to read that because I understand that writing happens in community. The
Mm-hmm.
best writing, I should give that asterisk, because
Yes.
some
Yes.
folks do want the
Mm-hmm.
writing to be a solo. And
Mm-hmm.
certainly when you're writing about something that's very personal,
Mm-hmm.
and something, as you have reminded us, that this topic, cultivating, the subtitle, cultivating deep faith amid depression and despair,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's a much needed topic. It's something we need to hear more of, not
Yes.
just from people who have, clinical expertise. We value that, but you're bringing a lived experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I think having friends who said to you, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, keep
Mm-hmm.
writing, don't give up, your words are worthy. That's
Mm-hmm.
something that we all can take away, right? To
Yeah.
be a friend like
Yes.
that to other
Yes.
people, because 7 years later, they get to celebrate this work with
Yes.
you.
Yes. It was really a team project, I feel, in so many ways, because I self-doubted so much. And I wouldn't have kept on if people hadn't kept saying, no, this really matters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so beautiful.
Mhm.
Kathy's saying writing for yourself is important too. Absolutely.
Yes. Yes. And it was so healing for me as well in surprising ways. Yeah.
Mm,
Very
mm,
grateful.
love that. I love that. And, as I was reading through this, remembering I'm a preacher's kid,
Oh,
as
me
well as
too.
preacher's kids unite.
Yeah.
I like to say we're still here. We
Yeah.
survived, and we still love,
Seriously.
and we still love God.
Yeah. Yeah. It's sort of a wonder. Yeah.
And that's one of those, if you know, you know, and we know. So you and I can probably continue our conversations offline about that. But I was thinking about, so many people in our church spaces and our faith spaces, as you write in your intro, as the introduction says, we don't talk more about how the life of faith can run through these, cosmic depths. And, we focus on the sunnier sides of faith.
Mhm.
But as you've already said, you felt like everyone else was kind of living here,
Mhm.
and you were in the abyss. You were dwelling, and you also beautifully illuminate, and I love Psalm 139 about,
Mhm.
when David is saying, where can I go from his
Yeah.
spirit? If I go to heavens, you are there. If I dwell in
Mhm.
the depths, you are
Yeah.
there. And I
Yeah.
love how you connected that for me was just brilliant, because I
Mhm.
I get that. And I
Mhm.
also got how your focus was to say God meets you there as well.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes. And it seems a little bit like obvious in some ways, like we should know that God is there and God is everywhere. But I feel like the way church life is a lot of times and the way Christian culture is, there's sort of an unspoken like implication that well, you shouldn't really be that low in the depths for too long. um, that if you're going through struggle, it should be resolved at some point pretty clearly, um, and especially if it's mental health, there's always so much sort of fusing of that with like moral implications or like your spiritual health or are you doing something wrong, do you have hidden sin in your life, are you ungrateful, so many things, I grew up hearing that anxiety and depression were a sin, so that was not very helpful for me. And yeah, there's just not very much understanding about just our whole being, we're in bodies too. We're not just pure spirits, and that there's so much of life, even for Christians, that can be so hard for so long. And we just don't talk about that as much because it doesn't make for a pretty story on Sundays.
You are so right. Again, my mind is just swirling
Mhm.
through, spaces, and it makes me so grateful, Jean, that you have offered this vulnerable and hopeful work, because I think I would optimistically like to say it's getting a little better, at least in my
Yeah.
corner of the world. I'm
Mm-hmm.
hearing more conversations. Obviously, publishers are responding in Christian spaces and
Mm-hmm.
saying, this is something we do need to talk about. Let's champion some worthy voices who have beautiful offerings to share with us. But it also makes me grieve deeply, again, the church kid in me, that kind of weight was put on you and so many others,
Mm-hmm.
Kathy, others saying in the thread that they can
Mm-hmm.
relate. You mentioned in the book, and I want you to read a sample, whatever you would like, but I do remember, I think, one place where you mentioned sharing some of your pain and sort of being almost reprimanded, like being told you shouldn't be feeling like that. And it sort of made you shrink back, like, okay, this is not, and I don't want to say safe in a, I'm not throwing that word around flippantly because I know sometimes words cannot be used well, but the person's response to you made you shrivel up, made you
Yeah, a
feel
little bit.
oh, okay, I can't, I'm
Yeah.
not free. I'm not free to actually share how I feel.
Yeah.
And I hope that anyone listening would mourn if they've ever, maybe unknowingly,
Yeah.
sometimes people have said things and if you, sort of say, hey, do you realize what you said? And they would say, I didn't
Mm-hmm.
realize that was painful.
Yeah.
I want to give space for that.
Yeah.
We do know sometimes people do say words targeting
Mm-hmm.
them to be hurtful,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
perhaps in our faith spaces, because we haven't heard the topic or folks haven't,
Mm-hmm.
they were raised as you're describing, and
Mm-hmm.
I certainly can relate to that too, where we don't, that's not the life of a Christian. You're supposed to be a
Right.
conqueror, and all these
Right.
scriptures of,
Yes.
sometimes people speak out of that theological framework and don't
Yes.
realize that it is very harmful for
Right.
people who are,
Right.
are walking through a chapter or this is something that, as you mentioned, from the get-go. And I have to tell you, I kind of paused right away. You mentioned that this is going to be something, that's going to be a part of your story. And I was like, I love that you sort of put that right out. Like, this is going to be part of my story. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought, how freeing for other people, for someone to say, if this is going to be part of my story too, that's
Yeah.
okay. I'm in
Yeah.
company. I'm good company.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really wanted to include that. I mean, I'll just say I love the church, and the church has been such a nurturing place for me in so many ways. I've had so many wonderful like youth pastors, friends in church. I grew up in a really nurturing church. I had one friend apologize or say that she felt so bad for me that I had a horrible church experience, and I really didn't. It's just it might come off like that. I had a lot of support in the church. It was just that I tended to hone in on the things that were not helpful. I mean, that's part of what depression does as well. And you also just have to be careful because the negative things will stick with people. And people who are already feeling anxious or depressed will be super self-critical and already feel rejected by God. And so many things. And for me, like I was already focusing on the scripture that said, if you don't do this, depart from me. I never knew you. Like that was just my temperament. So we have to be aware, mindful that people might be in that space. And I'd say that everyone, even people who said unhelpful things for me, were all super caring people. Nobody meant ill, but it was just, there were things that always made me feel like, oh, I have to get over this. Like God doesn't want me to feel like this, so I must be doing something wrong. And I always felt that as long as I continue to need medication, as long as I have these tendencies, God is upset with me. So that was just an unfortunate mix of like the depression, my temperament, and things that I was hearing that I just took the worst way. But we
Yeah.
have to be sort of aware that people will do that if they're in that headspace, and that we have to be so gentle, I
Yes.
think,
Yes.
with our words.
That's good. That's so
Mhm.
good. And I echo what you're saying. You're not throwing the whole experience away and all of church. We certainly know we have we have, kin who do, feel like, oh, we just throw it all out, and we don't have to do that. We can give grace for, that other people on a journey as well. But I love your encouragement to be gentle. And that's very biblical. We are supposed to be caring with our words. And that might mean that we just choose not to say them or ask some
Mhm.
curious questions about what would be
Yes.
helpful instead of
Yes.
making those broad assumptions.
Yes. Right. And think about the load that you might be putting on someone. Maybe they've already tried that thing. Like maybe they've already really tried to take every thought captive, or you know what I mean? Maybe they're already doing their best. Yeah, just to have a little compassion.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit of compassion. That's so good.
Mhm.
Well, I would love if you would read, for those who have not purchased this book. I hope that they are going to go swiftly and purchase
Uh-huh.
after this ends. But if you would love to share an excerpt with us, I love to hear an author share their words in their own voice.
Hmm. I guess a little bit of the end of chapter one, I think, goes into why I wrote the book.
Okay.
So I'll go from page 25 on mercy in the deep.
Okay.
As I've worked toward wholeness, it has been particularly helpful to pay attention to the crucial question of what I believe deep down in my gut, not just in my head about God and how God views me. Over the years, I've found that the single most difficult thing to believe when I'm depressed, and perhaps the single most comforting thing in the midst of depression when I can trust it, is the reality that I am God's beloved, that God's affection for me is unshaken, no matter how depressed or unwell I might be. Trust in that weird, impossible love doesn't come easily. It's only with a lot of help from fellow wayfarers in faith over several decades that I've grown to more readily trust that love. Even now, I don't presume that my trust is steadfast. Given my track record, I have little confidence that my infinitesimal dot of faith will hold steady. I know not what dangers await in the abyss. But for today, or rather in this particular moment, because who knows what the rest of the day holds, I trust that the Christ of all compassion is the unshakable constant, that things are not dependent on the strength of my faith or the steadiness of my sanity or swayed by my shoots into despair.
Just like a good book, it kind of makes you go like, wait, keep going. But the point is that you need to go get your copy of the book so that you can take this in. But that was so beautiful. And you have such a beautiful way of casting imagery as you write. I mean, I look at how many times I was underlining when I first started reading, and I didn't have a highlighter, which is what I would usually use. So I had a pen, and I'm putting stars, and I'm making notes, and I even wrote down something about my grandmother, thinking about her, what I believe was undiagnosed depression, and its effect on our entire family, and just things that my mom and I have talked about her mother's journey, and so a good book encouraged you to sort of dialogue with the words, think through things, and as you've said in this, your hope is that it's an invitation to a faith that endures in the depths. And I love that. Thank you for reading that portion for us. Jean, what would you say your hope is for readers who purchase this book?
Mhm. Um, First, I hope for anyone who really struggles in similar ways, or who can relate to being in the abyss, uh, I hope it gives them a little bit of hope and encouragement. And I wanted to share about some of the really difficult things, just to let people know that they're not alone in that space of it being even that difficult. Because I always felt like, even when I heard about people sharing about depression at church, I always thought, yeah, but they're not as depressed as I am, or they're not as messed up as I am, or yeah, but God must be really frustrated with me because nobody's been depressed as long as I've been, right? There was always something. So I hope that those people feel less alone. And also, like, it's just a normal part of life, I think. Just, I mean, being human is hard, and having faith is hard. So I hope those people feel encouraged. And then for everyone else, I hope we can just open up more conversations about not just mental health, but about how tough the faith journey is. Just life is hard. And I feel on Sunday mornings, sometimes we talk as if faith is really obvious or faith should be really easy. And it's just not, because life is so hard, you know? Um, so I hope we can talk more just about the breadth of experience in faith, and that, you know, being Christian can look so many different ways. Like there's just not one model for what a strong Christian looks like or for what great faith looks like. And I think what was difficult for me for many years was just not seeing anyone with my kinds of struggles or my temperament, um, sort of as an example of faith. So I thought it was wrong to doubt. And I thought it was, yeah, I always thought I was exasperating God, being how I was. And it just took a long, long time for me to trust in the voices of mercy that were saying, maybe God is with you. Maybe, can you imagine Jesus having compassion on you? It just took a long time for me to trust, even though in my head I know God is gracious and all these things. In my gut, it was really hard to trust. Um, so I hope we have more deep conversations and more examples of how different a life in Christ can look like. You know, so many different ways.
It's so good. I can only add amen as we close. So well said. I pray for just what you said, for more conversations. And I hope that this conversation today, that we can take away an invitation to continue, right? In whatever spheres we're in, whether we can relate to this same struggle, or certainly there are people we know who could. You know, books are, the author in me just wants to remind everyone, books are great gifts. Not to say you need this, but I heard a great conversation from this author, and I thought it might be an encouragement to you. It's been an encouragement to me. You know, I would encourage you to purchase this for your church library. If you attend a house of faith that has a library or a lending opportunity for people. I am grateful, Jean, that you have given us this offering. I praise God for the journey. And as you said at the beginning, even the hardship of finding the right home and shifting and now being able to say, I'm grateful that I did take these shifts, because the end result, and you know, for those who are publishing, that's kind of the way it goes. When you get those passes and those rejections and the journey takes longer, the end result is always better. You never look back and go, oh, it still would have been better, you know, back then if I'd gotten the deal. So thank you for just reminding us of that, those of us who are fellow writers. And yes, Christ in the Abyss is a book for anyone who has cried out into the void and wondered if anyone, especially God, is listening. The good news is that God is always present with us, even in the depths. This is a beautiful, beautiful work. Shout out to your wonderful editor with NAB Press, Deborah, who was a guest with us, Redwood Writers Guild, a few weeks ago. She joined us for one of our Women of Color gatherings. So, Deborah, great work. We just honor you, and thumbs up to NAB Press for acquiring this. That was a smart move.
Oh, thank you. They took a big risk on me, complete unknown. So, yeah,
Well,
thank you.
it's a reminder that, you know, and I'm grateful to know for this reality that publishers are looking for worthy words. They're not just looking for impressive things. I'm not representing that press or any publisher, so I'm just saying this as a writer. But it is wonderful that yes, you have wonderful credentials and wonderful education and experience, but what you brought so beautifully to this project is a lived experience of someone who has walked with God for a long time, and who is saying to other people, "Walk with me," and you're not alone in your journey. And to have companionship is just a beautiful thing. So, Christ in the Abyss by Jean L Neely, PhD. I highly encourage you to support this work and purchase the book. And Jean, for those who would like to stay in touch with you, what's the best way for people to do that?
They can, my work is on mercyinthedeep.substack.com. And I have a website, jeanneelywriter.com, that you can check out. And also my email is jeanneelywriter@gmail.com if you want to contact me.
Okay. Awesome. Well, great ways. If this conversation encouraged you, please share it with other people, and send Jean a message. I'm just going to tell you guys, it's encouraging as authors when you find
Yes.
that your words actually minister to someone, because that's what you write them for, is for them to be a blessing. So, and I can attest that they have blessed me. So thank you for this beautiful work. Thank you for being a part of our Redwood Writers Sisterhood. And again, this is an offering from Redwood Writers Guild. I'm Dorena Williamson, the Diversity Chair. And if you're curious about who we are, please check us out. Redwood Writers is a community of women who write. We believe in collaboration over competition, and we champion the beauty of our writing and literary gifts in all fashions. So please check us out. Thank you for joining Jean and I in this conversation today, and we hope you guys have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much, Jean. Bye.
Bye.